The heart and soul of the Cayman Islands. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
Let's spread the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
For the record, proudly brought to you by
Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Brand Source Home Gallery. Inspiring luxury. West Bay Pharmacy. Taking care of your health. And JN Money.
From abroad to yard.
Fast, affordable, convenient. Doctor's Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctor's Hospital. Always there for you. Call 949-6066.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, O land of soft, fresh breezes and verdant trees so fair. Today is Friday, the 3rd day of February 2023, right here in the beautiful Cayman Islands. We hope and we trust that everyone had a restful, peaceful, enjoyable evening. Those of you who are on the roads of the Cayman Islands, whether you're a pedestrian, a cyclist, or if you're operating any type of motorized vehicle, again, we urge you to please be extremely cautious. Ensure that you observe the rules of the road, including in the dark when you're using your headlights, ensuring that they're on low beam when there are vehicles or even walkers or even cyclists coming in the opposite direction. Put your headlights on low beam if you know where the switch is. If you don't, ask a friend. Or it would be fairly embarrassing if you had to go back to the licensing department and ask them, can you tell me where the dip switch is on the car? If you did that, they should actually revoke your license if you don't know where that is. But no, seriously, those high beams do affect those persons coming in the opposite direction. Us older folks, we do feel it probably more than others because many of our visions or eyesight is affected, by it as well. But I'm sure that there are other persons out there, who have challenges as far as their vision is concerned, who it affects as well. So drive and use your low beams. If you have to use a high beam, then when there's oncoming traffic, dim them as well. Use your signals when you're negotiating roundabouts. If you're turning, use your signals to indicate early so that the vehicles behind you, as well as those coming in the opposite direction, because they may be making a turn as well into the road that you're turning or changing lanes. So you want to ensure that you communicate with the other road users as well. I know that there are many persons out there who share the same sentiments, who have the same concerns about the way traffic is operating on our roads. And we heard the other day, Wednesday, people called in, about the traffic and everything else. So there is a concern out there. We're imploring the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service and their traffic department to try to do as much as they can. Yes, we understand that you can't be everywhere, at the same time. But there are times and there are stretches of roads. For instance, the Spot Street Tom Jackson Lane, Spot Street area need to be there. The stretch, Christus Tomlinson roundabout, all the way down to the Hurley's Grand Harbor, we need monitoring there. Then the stretch on Linford Pearson Highway, those are the areas where people tend to speed more than anywhere else and to be constantly switching lanes as well. So if you can do more there, we're asking you really, please do that for us as well. Those of you who are celebrating a birthday today, we want to wish you a happy birthday, and we have several birthday greetings that we're going to announce and acknowledge on For the Record this morning, and to remind you that the For the Record birthday shout-outs are proudly brought to you by life insurance agent Michael Webster from Cayman Insurance Center, whose advice to you is to live your best life and make sure your family can too. Those of you who have lost loved ones, again, we want to express our sincere condolences to you. We hope and we trust that your faith will help to carry you through these extremely challenging times, and that the memories of your loved ones will be a blessing to you as well. Those of you who are ill and are either at home or at a medical facility here in the Cayman Islands or overseas, we wish you a speedy recovery as well. So, folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles, as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, wherever that may be. As you know, For the Record is a show produced by the staff and the management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I'm your host, Orrett Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. During that period, our phone lines are open. Beautiful radio voice of Miss Susan Watson waiting to take your calls. You can call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flo. That toll-free number, 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. Email us at For the Record, one word, For the Record at CANDW.KY. WhatsApp us 925-3261, where you can send us a text message or leave us a voice note, the contents of which will be played during the course of the show. You can follow us on YouTube. You do that simply by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. And, of course, you can follow us on Facebook as well. And as far as the Facebook birthdays are concerned, we will share some of those with you. But what we're going to do, we're going to go to the earlier ones. Earlier this morning, so one of our listeners, good morning. They want to send birthday greetings to their daughter, Kaya Lewis, who's celebrating her 40th birthday. She will be celebrating her 40th birthday tomorrow, February the 4th. Greetings are coming from Kaya's mom, her sister, and stepfather, who lives in the UK. And God's blessings coming from all of those persons. Also, we have here hello, we have a few birthday messages for a very special woman, Melinda Montemayor, who will be celebrating her birthday on Saturday, February the 4th. Please send these out to her. And I want to say what a pleasant young lady, Miss Melinda Montemayor. If you know her, you know she is really pleasant, and she reflects all of her family and her family values as well. So happy birthday to the best mummy in the whole world. We wish you many more birthdays and hope you enjoy our plans. Mummy, to the world, you might be just a mum, but to us, you are our whole world. You give us unconditional love. You're always making us laugh, never leaving our side. You are a hard-working woman, but you always make time for us no matter what. We love you so much. From your children, Aaron, Miko, Ollie, and Tally. And then we have happy birthday to you, Queen Mel. You are such an amazing woman. We wish you a wonderful happy birthday from your best friend. And come on, open up. From your best friends, the three amigas. So, Miss Melinda Montemayor, lots of greetings coming to you this morning from family as well as friends. I believe we have another one. Here we have this person would like to send happy belated birthday greetings to Mrs. Elizabeth Webb, who celebrated her special day yesterday. And those belated happy birthday greetings are coming from Angeline Murillo and family. Happy birthday to my son, Maurice Jackson, also known as Huba, who celebrates tomorrow, and celebrates his birthday tomorrow. And those greetings are coming from his mom with all the love in the world. Okay, this is great. I like it when people just don't only say, I'd like to send birthday greetings, to my son or my daughter, but they give a testimonial, to them as well. And that's great. So if more of you want to do that, we certainly encourage you to do that as well. And it makes my life easier, but it also gives me an opportunity to express, to read your feelings that you have expressed in words as well. Before we go to the commercial break, very quickly, I want to say good morning to Dr. Steve McField. Good morning, Doc. Welcome. Good to have you back, and happy Black History Month to you.
Thank you, Mr. For the Record, and good morning to you, and good morning to all your listeners in For the Record land, and those in the Cayman diaspora, and all the people who listens to you Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It's good to be back, and I want to wish all the people whose birthday is today, happy birthday to them too. Today I wore my Black History.
Yes. I was saying to you, I love that jacket. That really, really is nice.
I got this jacket. This jacket is many years old. I got it from a professor.
Oh, okay.
Gave it to me from the University of British Columbia.
Wow.
I've had it that long. And he gave it to me as a present when I was his history assistant. Mm-hmm. And I did a lot of research for him and writing some books and at the University of British Columbia history department. Roy Borden can tell you that at one time in Canada there was a furor about the American impact on the American impact on Canadian history and contents on TV and in schools, and that was as a result of a book that's written by the Levitts. Mm-hmm. It was called Silent Surrender. And when they discovered that 95% of everything in Canada was owned by Americans, even the television stations, the radio stations, the contents, the school books, the history books, everything. And Mr. Trudeau, when he came in, he tried to reverse that by giving grants to authors and his professors to write their own history. Roy and I are come out of that era, and okay. So, he gave me this jacket.
Okay.
Because it's a sort of Joseph coat of many colors.
Excellent.
So
okay.
That's why I wear it, and I only wear it on special occasions.
Good.
So I wore it today.
Folks, we're going to take a commercial break. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. The Cayman Islands, He hath founded it upon the seas.
Commissioner Hearst was noted for many achievements during his tenure, including the increase in road infrastructure, the establishment of the Government Savings Bank, and the modernization of the police force, amongst others. However, he was equally noted for his abrasive demeanor and conflicts with the local vestrymen. This conflict came to a head in November 1909 during the meeting of the magistrates and vestry. C.J.H. Goring, an appointed justice from Barbados who settled in Grand Cayman in 1901, publicly challenged Commissioner Hearst and complained of his behavior. Not to be outmatched, however, the commissioner responded, and upon adjournment of the session, he lectured the assembly, telling them that the attack by Justice Goring was an insult to his office. He further admonished Mr. Goring and his followers to, quote, fear God and honor the king. Information from this historical vignette was sourced from Founded Upon the Seas, A History of the Cayman Islands and Their People by Michael Creighton and the New History Committee.
Radio Cayman's historical vignettes was brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects.
It's all about humanity.
It will be Saturday, March 4th, the 11th annual Rotary Central Health Check, the almost island-wide Rotary Health Screening. See us at Foster's Republic's West Bay, Cost You Less at Governors Square, West Bay Road, A.L. Thompson's Georgetown, Foster's at Countryside in Savannah, Bordentown, from 10 a.m. through 2 p.m. Take advantage of a free mini-medical, a physician's check on your blood pressure, your A1C, your cholesterol, your blood sugar, your healthy weight evaluation, and more. The 11th Annual Rotary Central Health Check in conjunction with the Health Services Authority. Saturday, March 4. Save this date that could save your life. Rotary, all the good you imagine.
West Bay, home to Barkas National Park, the touristy flair, a family community, a political powerhouse. From sports enthusiasts to car aficionados, affection for silver thatch rope. No matter how far you may venture, West Bay will always be where the heart is. Home will always be in West Bay. West Bay Pharmacy, caring for your home and your family. West Bay Pharmacy in Centennial Towers. Convenient, quality care is just around the corner.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay.
No one can stop me when I taste the feel.
Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
At Doctor's Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctor's Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
They say you only live once. I say you only die once, but you live every day. I'm Michael Webster from Cayman Insurance Center, longtime supporter of Radio Cayman. Live your life, my friends. Happiness is in the journey, not the destination. When you're ready, I'm here to support you with the best financial decisions for your family's future. Cayman Insurance Center, protecting you and your family so you can take back your future. I'm Michael Webster, the sure way to protect your family. Call me when you're ready at 925-5433. Don't take chances with your family's future or your valuable assets.
Think life insurance.
System one loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. It is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning Dr. Steve McFeel. And we are going to have, we hope to have an interesting discussion, but we're going to have an interesting discussion this morning. I feel positive about it. And if our listeners choose not to engage in the discussion, Dr. McFeel, you and I, will have, will engage in the discussion ourselves. We're going to be talking about Black History Month. We're going to have about 6 minutes before we go to the 8 o'clock news, so I want to preview what we're going to be talking about on the other side of the 8 o'clock news. We hear the historical vignettes that are produced by Radio Cayman, and that is great because it is, we're talking about a history. It's informing people, as well. But if we, let's say, for instance, were to recognize Black History Month here in the Cayman Islands, like how some other jurisdictions do, then we would love to hear produced historical vignettes like talking about Shirley McFeel, a black merchant, Mr. Bonner Russell, Mr.
William Nixon.
Mr. William Nixon, Mr. Arthur Martin, Mr. Alvis Smith, all of those. And then we can even go into those that are still alive because, we don't necessarily want to only celebrate those who have passed on, but those who are still, with us, people, like you, like yourself, Roy Barton, Mr. Linford Pearson. And we want to talk about the fact that there are people out there who question, why do we celebrate Black History Month? Why do we celebrate Women's Week? And my question to them is, why Women's Month or other things? My question to them is, why do you celebrate your birthday? Reason many people celebrate their birthday is because it is, a historical event to them. And that every year they remind themselves of that by celebrating it on their birthday. So it's something that is important to them. It's a milestone, for them. Just like for Black people, certain things are milestones. Then they will say, well, why don't we celebrate White History Month? Absolutely nothing wrong with that if you want to celebrate
White History Month is celebrated every day of the year.
Yes, because it dominates.
Every day of the year. And that's one reason why I never engaged in Black History Month, because I say it was a terrible mistake to say that you only celebrate the history of Black people once a year, for 1 month. White history is celebrated every day of the year by all people all over the world. So why is it that the Black history people is only relegated to 1 month of the year?
And what the comedians have said about that? Not only 1 month of the year, but the shortest month of the year.
Shortest month, yeah. But you know what that is about? Because Black history began in 1915 by the historian Carter G. Woodson and Jessup Moreland. It was founded. They founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, which was an organization dedicated to researching and promoting achievements of the Black Americans in America and people of other descent. And the reason why they chose February, because that was Lincoln's birthday. February is Lincoln's birthday.
And Frederick Douglass as well.
And Frederick Douglass' birthday. And that's the reasons why they chose that day. But they were very limited and lucky to get to celebrate that in 1915 in America. And so people like me and other Black historians say, why is it that it's only celebrated, the the exploit and the contribution to black people are only celebrated once a year, every month in the shortest month. Black people's history should be promoted and celebrated every day of the year, just like other people's history is celebrated every day of the year. But of course, we know that it's the people in power and the conqueror are the ones who write the history. And so we're lucky even to have them to be mentioned. But I just want to say, because I wrote down something this morning before I came, I want to say across the generations, countless of black Caymanians have demonstrated profound moral courage and resilience to help shape these islands for the better. And there are so many of them. And one person that you didn't mention was the great Captain Tom Diaz.
Yes, and someone sent me a WhatsApp just now, and I was just mentioning a few because we're going to get into the details later on.
I wrote this for 2 years ago.
Yes.
It's called The Forgotten Great Mariners of the Cayman Islands. And it's the story of Captain Tom and the other Caymanians who took the Earl of Mountbatten's ship yacht, the Lost Horizons, took it back from Jamaica to United Kingdom, and what happened on that voyage. And a lot of people don't know, and they really don't care. You can't find any of this in the archives. You can find it in the archives in America, you can find it in the archives in Bermuda, and you can find it in the archives in England, but you can't find anything about it in Cayman.
Excellent. Folks, we've reached the top of the hour, but just to say to you that the Black History Month theme for 2023 is Black Resistance. Now, I'm sure that theme will evoke even more discussion, especially in the United States. But we will be talking more about Black History Month, its significance, and why we don't celebrate it here in the Cayman Islands. Folks, top of the hour, 8 o'clock news. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back immediately after the 8 o'clock news.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. And studio time by Price Right is 8 o'clock.
At Priced Right, spending less on everyday products is easy.
Spend less on office supplies, tools, and automotive products.
Spend less on groceries, fresh produce, and meat.
Spend less on electronics, TVs, and speakers.
Spend less on home furnishings, beauty products, and apparel.
At Priced Right, we believe you can live better for less.
To start saving, visit us at the Airport Center in Georgetown or at Republix Plaza in West Bay.
For more info, visit pricedright.ky. Live better for less at Priced Right.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by ValueMed Pharmacy. Save time and order your prescription refills online at value-medpharmacy.com. VALU-medpharmacy.com.
For today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
With your latest news, I'm Karsley Fuller. The Ministry of Investment, Innovation and Social Development is in the process of forming a new financial assistance appeals tribunal. More from Radio Cayman's Shanda Gallego.
During this year, the ministry says they're looking to implement the Financial Assistance Act 2022, which includes the creation of a Financial Assistance Appeals Tribunal. As a formal, independent, and voluntary entity, the role of the tribunal will be to, quote, hear appeals regarding decisions of the Department of Financial Assistance and then make a determination. The tribunal will have 5 members, and 3 of the 5 members require specific experience. For the chairperson, they're looking for an attorney at law with at least 5 years' experience, a deputy chairperson with at least 5 years' experience in health and human services, and a person with at least 3 years' experience in finance. And just a quick note, ministry officials say public officers are ineligible to be considered for appointment due to the remit or nature of the tribunal. Following the application deadline, a ministry committee will interview shortlisted applications. The successful applicants will be recommended for cabinet approval, and those appointed by cabinet will be notified. Shanda Gallego, Radio Cayman News.
Government is reaching out to prospective bidders for an analysis of its sustainable development goals. The request for proposals posted on government's Bonfire Hub website says the Ministry of Sustainability and Climate Resiliency requires a consultancy service to conduct a 12-week project. This will facilitate discussions around sustainability both in individual ministries and across the entire Cayman Islands government. The view is to make recommendations to Cabinet regarding the UN Sustainable Development Goals and possible targets under those goals that should be considered as the priority areas of focus for the remainder of the PAC-led government's term. The tender closes on February 21st. And the Cayman Islands Crisis Center says teen dating abuse is more common than people realize. Radio Cayman's April Cummings reports. 2-5.
A 2021 survey of students between 14 and 18 years old at 4 Cayman Islands secondary schools reports 1 in 10 students experiencing dating abuse. February is Teen Dating Abuse Awareness Month, and the Cayman Islands Crisis Center says the theme this year is Be About It, a call for education, engagement, and empowerment of our youth to seek out healthy relationships free from abuse. The Crisis Center says abuse is more than physical violence. It can take the form of emotional, verbal, and sexual abuse, which can have devastating and long-lasting negative impacts on our teens. April Cummings, Radio Cayman News.
Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC, which will take us out of the newscast. I'm Karsley Fuller.
BBC News for Jerry Smith. The European Union's President, Charles Michel, has joined the President of the European Commission in Kiev for a summit with President Zelensky. Ukrainian officials want to speed up the application process for EU membership. Officials in Brussels suggest that accession talks aren't likely to start this year. China has appealed for calm after the United States said it had detected a Chinese surveillance balloon flying over its territory. Beijing's foreign ministry says it has no intention of violating foreign airspace. More than 1,800 people have been arrested in northeast India on charges of marrying or arranging marriages to underage girls. Officials say child marriages lead to higher maternal and infant mortality. Researchers have found that tailoring drug dosages to a patient's genetic profile can reduce serious side effects. A Dutch study found patients whose doses were adjusted according to certain aspects of their DNA experienced 30% fewer serious reactions than those given a standard dose. Brazilian police have carried out fresh raids in connection with last month's storming of Congress by supporters of the former president Jair Bolsonaro. Police said they were serving 17 warrants. The disgraced British pop star Gary Glitter has been freed from prison. The 79-year-old was jailed in 2015 for sexually abusing 3 schoolgirls. He served half of a 16-year sentence. An MP in Iran has said there's a plan to block the identity cards of women who don't wear the hijab. He said someone not wearing the headscarf properly would get a text message warning, followed by a fine if they didn't obey instructions. Britain's National Crime Agency says 2 letters alleging wrongdoing by election candidates in Nigeria are forgeries. The letters were widely circulated on social media. BBC News.
The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by ValueMed Pharmacy. Save time and order your prescription refills online at value-medpharmacy.com. VALU-medpharmacy.com. When we can't find the words to express ourselves, the right greeting card does just that for us. This Valentine's Day, greet people with love through our wide selection of Hallmark cards and more at ValueMed Pharmacy. More than a pharmacy, ValueMed has thoughtful gift ideas to help celebrate the love you share with family, friends, and heartstrings. From designer perfumes and colognes, bath spa sets and grooming kits, to chocolates and specially curated Valentine's gift baskets, ValueMed Pharmacy has gift ideas and greeting cards to help connect and share with your loved ones, with free gift wrapping offered for any in-store purchases. Visit ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road and Bodden Town.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman with the latest up-to-date, accurate news and information. For your convenience, the headline news will be repeated on our sister station, Breeze 105.3 FM, weekdays at 8:30 a.m. Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or download the Radio Cayman app in the App Store or log on to www.radiocayman.gov.ky and stay connected to what's happening in the community. Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio. Cayman Arts Festival 2023. From New York to London, landing in Cayman, 8 landmark events, global music on the island's stage. On Thursday, February 16th, 7 p.m. at the Camana Bay Cinema, classical guitarist Alexandra Whittingham, the 2021 #1 on the iTunes Classical Chart. Tickets are available at www.caymanartsfestival.com. For more information, call 922-5550 or email inquiries@caymanartsfestival.com. World-renowned classical guitarist Alexandra Whittingham. Thursday, February 16th, 7 p.m. at the Camana Bay Cinema. Proudly sponsored by RBC Dominion Securities and RBC Private Banking.
You know what I love to do with my family? Go fishing. I can put the bait on and cast and reel the line all by myself. My mommy and daddy say when they were little, there were plenty more fish to catch, but now there are lots more people fishing, so it's harder to find them. That's why we have marine parks now. They set some areas aside so the fish there can have babies and grow bigger. Then they swim out to other areas where I can catch them. Having the marine parks means there will still be fish there when I'm grown up and fishing with a family of my own.
For more info, download the Cayman DOE app or visit doe.ky.
The 8:12 a.m. weather report brought to you by CG Britcay, where people come first.
Hey, Bill, glad to see you back in the office.
Who?
Bill.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I think you're mistaking me for someone else.
Tom.
Nope.
Jack.
No.
Alex.
No. Want me to just tell you?
Nope, I got this, George.
No, you don't. Still not me.
Adam.
Not even close, man.
We're like a coworker that didn't forget your name. CG Britcay. Good like that. Okay, good to see you, Mike John Sean.
It's Mordecai.
Good morning. Let's take a look at the latest weather report. Current temperature is 77 degrees. Relative humidity is 89%. The barometric pressure 30.03 inches and rising. The wind is out of the east-northeast at 4 knots. Overnight low temperature was 76 degrees. Synopsis indicate moderate to fresh winds and seas will continue across the Cayman area for the next 24 hours as an anticyclone moves over the western Atlantic Ocean. Radar images show a few scattered showers in and around the Cayman area, which are moving towards the west. The forecast for today calling for partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of morning showers, and temperatures today will be in the mid-80s. Winds will be east to northeast at 5 to 10 knots, and seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. Pretty much the same for tonight, partly cloudy skies with a 20% chance of showers, and temperatures falling to the mid-70s tonight. Winds will be northeasterly, 5 to 10 knots, seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. High tide will be this morning at 9:18, low tide this afternoon at 3:20, and a high tide again tonight at 8:32. The sun will set this evening at 6:18 and will rise tomorrow morning at 6:59. And the outlook is calling for similar weather conditions through Sunday morning.
The 8:12 a.m. weather report brought to you by CG Britcay, where people come first.
During these unprecedented times, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Cayman Strong Series. The Cayman Strong Series is brought to you by OnCourse Cayman. Visit oncourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. OnCourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
Achieving your goals is a very rewarding feeling, but at times can feel very frustrating, especially if and when we miss our target. As you approach your goals in life, set yourself up for success.
When setting your goals, celebrate your progress. It's important to acknowledge progress each step of the way as you achieve your goals. Everything that you do to move in that direction gets you a little closer. Planning small rewards along the way can help to keep things interesting and give us a taste of what sweet success will be like.
Change your thinking.
During these
change your life.
unprecedented times, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Cayman Strong Series. The Cayman Strong Series is brought to you by OnCourse Cayman. Visit oncourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. OnCourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
These days, feelings of loneliness, anxiety, stress, and depression can be overwhelming. Just know you are not alone. OnCourse Cayman offers private mental health services for children, teens, adults, and groups. Visit oncourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. OnCourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
Good morning once again. Let's take a look at traffic. Traffic is bumper to bumper coming from the east and Shamrock Road. Coming off of Rex Creighton Boulevard, steady traffic. Traffic busy on the Linford-Pearson Highway. As we look to Crew Road, heading to Georgetown, traffic also busy, coming off of Agnes Way and Bobby Thompson Way. A lot of patience are needed this morning as you head on down to Georgetown, but you will get there. Steady traffic, nothing to worry about too much on Godfrey Nixon Way, heading towards the traffic lights. Eastern Avenue moving on moderately. As we look to downtown Georgetown, traffic is light to moderate, as well as coming from the Westby four-way stop. Traffic is steady coming off of the Esther Lee Tibbetts Highway and continuing on to North Sound Road. Industrial Park area, moderate flow of traffic in both directions. And that's what's happening on your roads. Join us again at about 10 minutes after 12 o'clock. We'll give you another traffic report.
When you're craving something big, something tasty that gives you that lip-smacking satisfaction, something that hits the spot, there is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
It's pretty tasty.
Filling and full of flavor. Try our new sweet onion steak teriyaki with a twist. Or the classic chicken teriyaki. Top it with green pepper, onions, cheese, and that sweet onion teriyaki sauce, all piled on your favorite artisanal bread. Satisfy that craving with a footlong from Subway.
Fresh, delicious, tasty, meaty.
Let's make it a meal with a drink, chips, and cookies. There is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
At Kirk's Home Center, we can make your life much better. We got it all together. We got a great deal in store for you. From cookware to stereos, from power tools to plumbing supplies. Yeah, we got the best goods with the best price and a service to make you smile. At Kirk's Home Center, we got a great deal in store for you.
105.3 Breeze FM live. Now it's an Man Bushman represented for 105.3 Breeze FM.
Hey, this is DJ Lynn. Join me Sundays from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Breeze 105.3 for Beach and Reggae Sundays. Whether you're out in a boat, in the backyard, or simply on the beach catching some sun, it's the perfect way to unwind for the weekend as the sun sets on our beautiful Caribbean Sea. Join us this Sunday from 2 p.m. on Breeze 105.3 Beach and Reggae Sundays.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. It is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning none other than Dr. Steve McFeel. We're going to be talking more about Black History Month, why we don't celebrate it here in the Cayman Islands, and why we don't even hear Kwahe about it. We don't read anything about it in the press. I haven't seen anything about it. We know that the Cayman Islands, that we have, a unique history. Every country, has a unique history. We know that we've spoken about slavery in the Cayman Islands, and there are some who say, well, we really didn't have quote unquote slavery per se in the Cayman Islands, and maybe that is why we no longer celebrate Emancipation Day.
Yeah.
We understand the absence of some of the discussions, but we're going to continue to have those discussions. Before I go there, though, I want to say, Miss Melinda Montemayor, happy birthday greetings coming from your parents, Lennox and Rosemary, over in the BRAC as well. Birthday greetings coming to you from them. So we see, for instance, that in Bermuda, that in acknowledgement of Black History Month, one of their foremost and most prominent newspapers, the Royal Gazette, they continue their publication of stories throughout February on African American, Black, Bermudan, and global African people, events and institutions, and their contributions that they have made to history. There is also, an article in there about a gentleman by the name of Rattray that we're going to try to share with our listening and viewing audience this morning as well. But we're going to talk about the persons of color, Black people who made contributions and substantial contributions and great achievements here in the Cayman Islands as well. But we want our audience to participate as well and talk about their family members and highlight them, as well in this discussion. We don't want them to be shy. We want them to get out there and to talk about it as well. And one of our listeners has shared with me a story in the Royal Gazette also. Canadian broadcaster highlights trailblazing Bermudan teacher, a Bermudan teacher who went to Canada as well. So we're going to share those with you because those are the articles that we're finding. You look in today's newspaper. I'm going to look. I haven't looked yet, but I'm going to look at the online newspapers, see whether or not the Compass has anything so far about Black History Month. I'm going to see whether or not Cayman News Service has anything about Black History Month as well. But we do have a caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Good morning, caller. Welcome to For the Record.
Morning to the doctor on there.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hello?
Good morning. We're hearing you. Are you hearing us?
Hello?
Yeah. Good morning, caller. Are you hearing us? There's something wrong with the link. We're going to try again, caller. Meanwhile, Doc.
Well, just
sure, you go ahead.
I just want to say, we're talking about the contributions of Black people to our history and history around the world. That is to say, but as a historian, all history to me is relevant and powerful and important. Just a few days ago, I was in a business. I was looking around, and I saw this gentleman. He was sitting in a chair, and his face looked familiar. And I says to him, "Are you a foster?" And he says, "Yes, I'm a foster." And I say, "Which foster are your family to?" And he told me. And I said, "Did you know that your ancestors owned Georgetown?" He says, "Really?" And I says, "Yeah, you didn't know that." And I start to tell him. I just want to read that
Sure.
to your audience today.
Go right ahead, Doc. Yep.
Okay? And this is from our history book. Of the hundreds of this 1741 grantees, there were 4 grantees of land in Cayman. William Foster had the closest known connections to the Cayman Islands. His land grant appeared to cover the entire area from the present center of Georgetown to Pull&Bedan Point off South Sound. Because of its location, it was 1,000 acres. Pull&Bedan Point.
Is that? I wonder if that's what we call now. Call Jackson Point.
Yeah, I think so. Jackson Point is Pull&Bedan Point.
Uh-huh.
William Foster might have been more subject than the other 1641 grants to the limiting codicil included in each of them. This codicil stipulated that those who could prove with 2 witnesses before magistrates that they had occupied, planted, or felled trees within the granted land could retain possession of that land with 30 acres of adjacent woodland, provided that they took out a patient within 2 years. As we shall see, William Foster was well acquainted with this part of Grand Cayman during 1730s, but there is no evidence that he settled or even stayed long. For that matter, there is no record of Fosters in Grand Cayman in the latter 18th century, and there were no Foster listed on the Corbett's census of Grand Cayman in 1802. The Foster clan, which certainly existed in Cayman Brac from 1833 and later branched back to Grand Cayman, probably had connections in Jamaica as well as Grand Cayman. Foster, the 1741 grantee, seemed to have been one of the several involved in the Cayman Islands in the early days who had a more secure base in Jamaica. Almost certainly he was the same William Foster, described as a merchant of Kingston, Jamaica, whose inventory in 1756 was assessed of more than £65,000. Now, the other grantees were John Middleton and Mary Campbell. They would have owned where the airport is now, Raid Bay, an industrial park.
Okay.
Samuel Spotsford, he had a grant in 1741, which was the northern part of West Bay. And Murray Campbell had a grant in 1741. That was all the land between Georgetown and West Bay. And then there was Mary Borden, who had a grant in 1742, which was the land between Newlands and Borden Town. So when I spoke to him, to this gentleman, he was amazed. And I said, yes, your people own central Georgetown all the way to South Sound to Pull&Bedan Point. And the reason why they had those land grants.
So I'm going to just interrupt you. Is it Pull&Bedan?
Pull&Bedan Point. Yeah, that's what it's called.
So I guess you row. You got to a certain point and Bedam after that.
Yes, Bedam after that, yes. And the reason for that was it was no Georgetown at that time in 1741. It was the Hochstyes. That's what that area was called. And that whole area was a mahogany and cedar forest. And all of these grantees were cutting the forests, the cedar and mahogany, and shipping it to England or Jamaica. And it was a lucrative money earner. And the only place that the forest exists now is right behind the UCCI. And you remember when they tried to put the road through Windsor Park?
Yes.
It was going through this virgin forest, and they stopped them from doing that. So Georgetown was nothing but a cedar and mahogany forest. And I was telling this gentleman, I can't remember who it is, but he knows if he's listening to the radio or anyone listened to him to the radio this morning, your family once owned all of the land in from central Georgetown, which would be Georgetown Center today, to South Sound to Pull&Bedan Point. So I'm interested in all history.
Yes.
So the reason, the fact that I'm talking about Black history only today and only this month does not mean that for some people I'm a racist or that I am only talking about Black people, because that's what a lot of people believe, that when you start talking about yourself, and if you're Black, when you start talking about yourself, that there's some problem with you, and they get really scared of what you say. about yourself, and I find that very obnoxious and very frightening for me.
Okay. Miss Susan, we want to take the break first, and then we're going to try to call her again. Hopefully, we'll be able to connect. But what I want to say is, if the caller's listening in, we could hear him. He obviously couldn't hear us. If that situation continues, we would encourage him to just go ahead and talk, and we will listen as well. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay. Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, K-Man.
JN money touchdown. Send the money now, reach wow. You say you need some money, JN money, I can send it in a hurry. Get through quick when you come collect your cash, or use your money card and swipe it in a flash. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN money, we a pick, yeah. Send and receive funds at any JN Money location. It's fast, affordable, and convenient. Money touchdown with JN Money. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we a pick, yeah.
Call 345-945-2014 for details. Available at JN Money locations across the Cayman Islands.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
System 1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're going to try to link up with the caller again. Caller, good. No? Okay. We lost the caller. So, Doc, I'm going to go back to you.
Yes. So, what's interesting too is that one of the first cases that went to court in Jamaica, to the Supreme Court in Jamaica, was a case that involved Foster. Mm-hmm. It's called the William Foster Batterby case. William Foster featured in a 1739 Jamaica court case that provides clear picture of the early settlement of Grand Cayman, brought against Foster by a fellow Jamaican, Benjamin Battersby. The case concerned the cutting, shipping, and sale of mahogany. The importance of mahogany was soaring at the time as the British and European furniture industry developed. For a while, mahogany surpassed turtle as Grand Cayman's most valuable product. The case was brought in Jamaica Chancery Court at Spanish Town because the Grand Cayman was considered a place within the jurisdiction of the court. The bill of indictment made by Battersby was based on a written agreement alleged made on 11th December 1734 between Battersby and Foster on one side and John Borden of Grand Cayman on the other side. The purpose of the agreement was to send or cause to be sent under the care of the said John Borden 8 Negro men, slaves, to be marked on the left shoulder with FB, the property, and said William Foster to Grand Cayman in order to cut mahogany plank and to be under the immediate direction of the said John Borden.
So they would tattoo that in the arm?
They were tattooed,
yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Borden was to receive either a quarter of the cut wood or a quarter of the proceeds of its sale. He agreed to set the Negroes to set felling and cutting the mahogany, and not to employ them otherwise than for the equal benefit and advantage of Foster and Battersby. And then what happened is that, according to the Battersby account, Borden went to Grand Cayman in January 1735 with 8 slaves, furnished and supplied with all the suitable necessities and provisions for the said undertaking to amount to £500 and upwards. On arrival, he applied to John Borden. So what they found out is that they were cutting the mahogany and they were sending it directly to England instead of going through Jamaica. And in November, William Foster was said to have gone to persons at very great charge and expenses to Grand Cayman to check on the joint operations and to see whether the enterprise could be expanded. And Foster found the original area more or less worked out. John Borden had made an agreement to cut timber on John Middleton's land on the North Sound and as far as a fixed fine line to the eastward. Here the slaves were busy felling and sawing mahogany at a place that locals call Borden Works. And then William Foster prospected other likely areas and found at the south side of the place, probably on the shore of Coral Bay in South Sound. John Borden looked up and approved it. So what John Borden did when Foster staked him out to cut the mahogany for he and Foster, John Borden was cutting the mahogany for somebody else and was selling it straight to England on the boat and not sending it through Jamaica to Foster, and Foster took him to court.
That Coral Bay probably would be what we now call Red Bay.
That's
well,
right.
More than likely. Huh?
That's right. And then William Foster then returned to Jamaica with a sketch map of the timbered area around Borden's works and south side. He and Benjamin Battersby arranged to send 20 more slaves to Grand Cayman, along with a skilled saw called William Prosa. Prosa's job was to assist and direct and instruct the slaves in the felling, sawing, and squaring of the said timber, and Foster and Battersby also agreed to charter a ship in England to initiate a direct trade in mahogany between Grand Cayman and the mother country, in addition to trading through Jamaica. So that caused a big lawsuit in Jamaica. And that was the first case that went to the Supreme Court in Jamaica in 1739. So you see, we have a lot of history that we are all interested in, and a lot of people don't know. And so I am interested in all history, and I'm glad that you invited me on this morning, because it was just a few days ago I was speaking to this Foster gentleman, and he did not even know about this history that I'm talking about today, that his family once owned Central Georgetown to South Sound. So you see, we have a history here that's hidden for some reason, that's unknown, that is silent. And then when we talk about the history of black people, people get upset. They don't call, they don't engage you, and so forth. But
it's unfortunate that many people in the Cayman Islands are still in denial. Some of
their
them,
ancestry.
Yes, some of them say, "Oh, we want to move on."
Yes,
but I know this is a worn out adage, but if you don't know where you're coming from, how in the world are you going to know where you're going?
Well, I moved on. I've moved on, and I moved on just because I know my history. Because when you read the history of 1835, and you'll see that my family members were some of the people who signed a petition to England, to Micro Trust Charity, and to the Queen Victoria
for school,
to be educated, and that was big, and that's all recorded in our history.
But we don't highlight it.
Why we don't highlight that? We don't highlight that, and that is highlighting our history, because when the Micro Trust sent the teacher Malcolm and other people here to start the school in Borden Town after emancipation, the trust said that all people should be educated. And when the slave masters that had just lost their slaves discovered that all the children were going to be taught, educated together, they objected. They objected. And Sen told him, no, you couldn't do this. And he insisted that that's what he came here to do. And then they want him to make a different compartment for the blacks and a different compartment for the whites, and to teach one in different days. And he refused. And then when he insisted, they said to him that they had to pay 6 pence a week. And they didn't have any 6 pence a week because they had just come out of slavery. Over their 200 years of slavery, they had no money. And then he went back. He left and went back to England. To Jamaica. And there was nothing. So the only school then was in Georgetown, which was run by the church. And of course, that had a grant. The school in Bordentown had no grant. The school in Georgetown was owned by the Cayman Islands legislature. The government, they had built this place for out of the money that they had gotten from Micro Trust.
Okay.
But the school in Bordentown had been rented, and they refused to continue to rent. And that was something. I got it. It's all recorded here, Mr. For the record. I just want to read that a little bit.
Okay, I'll give you an opportunity to find that. Meanwhile, one of our listeners has written in and said, "Good morning, Mr. Connor and Dr. McFeel. Another important topic you are discussing today. Also, if we do not do something to preserve Caymanian rights and to manage this runaway train that we have in these islands, we will have to host a Caymanian or Cayman History Month in the future. There will not be much evidence of indigenous Cayman life if the current craziness continues. Able and willing Caymanians are being marginalized everywhere, from the workplace to the sidewalks. Caymanians, take off the blindfolds and remove the smoke screen. Wake up." You found it now?
Yes, I found it.
Go right ahead.
It says St. George's Church in Georgetown was rebuilt within 5 months after the hurricane. The former day school in Georgetown was revived, and a new one was started in Bordentown. Trained teachers supported the Micro charity came on, but the enthusiasm of the local whites soon evaporated when it was discovered that outside funding was temporary and that educational opportunities would be available to all Caymanians, including the ex-slaves. By the middle of 1839, both Thomas Sharp and David Wilson had left for good. More than a century was to elapse before another Anglican minister resided in Cayman. The two Micro teachers, despite marked success, remained for just over 2 years. Andrew Malcolm, as I have told you before, arrived in August 1838 and opened the first school at Bordentown. That November, the school began with only 23 pupils. Fees of 6 pence a week for children under 6 years of age and 10 pence for older children must have kept members down. Observing that very few families could afford fees of even payment in kind in ground provisions, Malcolm abolished them on his own initiative. Within 6 months, enrollment had grown to 97, with almost equal proportions of white and non-white children. Malcolm suffered from social isolation, heat, and mosquitoes, but chiefly from opposition by former slave owners. The issue was Malcolm's determination that not to separate the non-whites from the whites in class. As he wrote in a letter to the Micro Trust in London in May 1839, the white population have a most inveterate hatred against the blacks. They have told me that I must erect 2 galleries, one for the white children and the other for the black children, that I must make a distinction in my school. But I have invariably told them I would not. I have told my children that I would make no distinction between black and white, and that a good boy is a good boy, whether he be black or white, and that I would respect him because he was a good boy and not because he was a white boy. The preferred solution to the local regime was set up in a second Michael school in Georgetown, in which white children would be in the majority, leaving the Bordentown school predominantly for non-whites. The general superintendent of the Michael school in Jamaica, Reverend Walridge, visited Grand Cayman in August 1839 in an attempt to resolve the dilemma. Originally had planned to send a native teacher from Jamaica. Now he had diplomatically told the assembly that he was induced to believe that a European teacher sent out from the mother country would prove a far more effective mode of procedure. However, with limited funds, it was difficult to support such a candidate, let alone forego fees in Georgetown. Without local support, he particularly requested a schoolhouse. And then, as the peak drew, Andrew Malcolm School had an enrollment of 130 people, most of them non-whites, but it proved too heavy a burden for both the Michael Charity and his teachers. When Malcolm left Grand Cayman in the summer of 1840, 80 parents of his non-white pupils, only 8 of whom could sign their names, sent a heartful and revealing petition to the Michael Trust in London pleading for his return. And it said, "We, the black and brown people in or about Bordentown, beg to leave to return our sincerest thanks for your great kindness in sending among us our beloved teacher, Mr. Malcolm." It began, "Was it not for your honorable charity and the attention of Mr. Malcolm, we would have been this day as we were 6 years ago." Malcolm was described as a good man and a great man who not only taught their children but attended the sick, and in the absence of an ordained minister, preached twice each Sunday. And they say, "We are sorry that he has a great many enemies." The petition continued, "But they are not among our class. He is persecuted by a great part of the whites, but without a cause, and we are afraid that his troubles and persecutions will drive him off the island." It was if Andrew Malcolm did return from Jamaica, it was for no more than a few months. My ancestors were some of those that signed that petition, and I am glad and happy that I was part of that. And my ancestors also did great contributions to this country. My Aunt Malvina McFeel, midwife, was the midwife to Dr. Overton in our old family house. My great-grandfather house was the clinic in which people from all over the islands women gave birth. And I was speaking to a lady just several years ago. Her name is McKenna Miller from Northside, and she told me that she was born in that house, and she was delivered by my grand aunt Malvina McFeel.
Wow.
So there is so much history about our people that we hide and we don't want other people to know. And most of it, and I will say it here, and I don't care who likes me or who don't like me for it, most people are denying the African side of their families, their African heritage. They don't want to hear about that. And sometimes when I hear people say it, when I ask them, "What is your descent?" or they tell me they're from Europe and so forth. And that is,
I got a little bit of Irish in me. I got a little bit of Scottish, Norwegian. That's the part, the little bit they highlight.
That's the little bit they highlight. And in this book here, I just want to show you an elegant lady here.
Yes.
She's a Conley.
Yes. Oh, wow.
And you know, she was married to one of those white Connollys from Ireland in East End. And why that happened is because when those white people came here from different parts of the world, they could not send back to Europe to get white women to marry. They had to marry into the slavery and the black slavery. And that is why the Cayman has such a mixture. But today, some of them do not want to admit their ancestors.
Certainly.
You know, one great Caymanian that I admire, and I thought, I spoke to Lord Graham a couple of days ago and say I'm going to his house maybe this Saturday or the next Saturday to see him, and that is what's his name, who lives up in South Church Street. Help me remember his name.
Mr. Bernard Watler.
Mr. Bernard Watler. He will tell you. I look white, but I am not white. I have colored people in my family, and when you trace his family, they came from Gun Bay, and when you trace his grandfather, great grandfather, you will see that he built 3 of the most important ships here: the Goldfield, the Gold Medal, and the Klondike. And you wonder, how could a colored man come from Gun Bay, live between the 2 great merchants in the Cayman Islands, the MacTaggart House and the Merindale House, right where they removed that what's it again, that place where they sell souvenirs, craft market from.
Yes.
Was their house, was their site.
Mm-hmm.
And I always ask Mr. Watler, how did your great grandfather come from Gun Bay, a colored man, and come down and live in those days between those 2 giants families? And he said, in those days he was what we would call him an accountant. He was a bookkeeper for them. And that is how he lived there.
Okay, folks, we have to take a commercial break. Please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
So much happening, so fast, too much. It is hard for me to follow my healthcare instructions. The private counseling with West Bay Pharmacy literally saved my life.
At West Bay Pharmacy, we know how complex medications can be. Our pharmacists are delighted to offer you personalized one-on-one healthcare counseling, free medication review, therapeutic callbacks, and we will liaise with your physician to ensure you receive the best in quality medical care.
Quality of life has a whole new meaning with the right pharmacy to support you. Thank you, West Bay Pharmacy.
West Bay Pharmacy in Centennial Towers. Convenient quality care is just around the corner. Now you can WhatsApp your West Bay Pharmacy prescriptions to 516-0777.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Boy, what's going on? One day only. This Saturday, February 4th, Tomlinson Furniture and the Mattress Gallery are having a huge mattress clearance tent sale. Save up to 75% off retail pricing on luxury high-end mattresses. Brands such as Sturz & Foster and Sealy mattresses, kings and queens available. Cash and carry sale. All mattresses sold as is. No returns or exchanges. Mattresses in the tent clearance sale have been slightly scuffed or marked during transport, but still perfect to sleep on. Don't miss the mattress tent clearance sale. One day only. This Saturday, February 4th, with huge savings up to 75% off. Tomlinson Furniture and the Mattress Gallery, corner of Hospital and Walkers Road.
Tune in every Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. for Radio Cayman's Midday Newscast. Radio Cayman, the People's Station, your trusted official source for the latest news. The 12 p.m. news is proudly brought to you by Health City Cayman Islands. World-class healthcare within your reach. National Heroes Day celebrations make their way to Cayman Brac Saturday, February 4th, 10 a.m. at the Aston Rudder Center, honoring our sister islands heroes who have served our country through volunteerism and charitable services. As always, the event is free and open to all. Festivities will be streamed on the Cayman Islands Government YouTube channel. The Sister Islands Heroes Day celebrations Saturday, February 4th, 10 a.m. at the Aston Rudder Center in Cayman Brac.
And my children belong to Cayman Brac.
record with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. Before we go to our caller, and I believe we're still in a situation where we can hear them on the phone, but they can't hear us, but we're going to give them an opportunity to have their say. Anyway, we just want to acknowledge Miss Tiffany Leanne Connolly, who's celebrating a birthday today, and birthday greetings are coming from her mom and from her sisters as well. Of course, she is the reigning Miss Cayman as well, and they wish her God's blessing and many, many more years of happiness as well. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Caller, go right ahead.
Well, I understand you have some technical difficulties this morning. I just wanted to, I was interested after hearing about this land situation in the beginning. And by the way, good morning, Mr. Mockfield, as well.
Good morning, sir.
I just want to let you know that the Arch family, I think, was the first family to have a grant for property, which was in Northside, known as Forest Glen, in 1730. Mm-hmm. I think it was 1,730 acres that it was also the quantity or size of the property. But in addition to that, I understand there was an ownership of land from Northside all the way through to north to South Sound, which would be a little bit probably to the south of the piece you were talking about.
Yes.
That the Fosters owned. Well, I don't know what happened to all of that, but I wanted to say that being the first owner or registered owner of property in the Cayman Islands, for it to, during the cadastral survey, as you know, all the wetlands were claimed by the Crown.
That's right.
It was fought in court, and it was decided to return all of the wetlands that had been claimed by Crown to all of the owners that was originally the owners of the property. The Arch family is the only family that was not returned, that the wetlands were not returned after the cadastral survey or the court granted the privilege of returning it to the adjoining owners.
Yes.
That is something that's been in dispute for years, and it's unfair how the family has been treated with this, and we're still fighting against that to see if we can eventually get that refund returned. And it's the question, why was this the only piece that was not returned to the previous owners? I'll leave it with that. And it's interesting to hear the history of the island, and I believe we probably are part of it as well. So thank you, and I'll listen on the radio to your response.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. And I implore you that you should seek the assistance of your politicians, because they can do that with a stroke of the pen in through cabinet, or they can go to the legislature and for the resolution, and they can have those lands returned to you. After all of these years fighting, it's time to do what's just and what's right, and I would implore you to do that. And by the way, I know also have a little history of your family, the Arches, and as far as their involvement with with Page, who lived in Cayman Brac or Little Cayman. The Page name is not in Cayman anymore, but you'll find it in the Bay Islands down in Honduras. Okay. The Page, and I believe that I'm subject to corrections, but one of the Page's daughters, I think, was married to an Arch, and that is where the Arches got the scales for building schooners and for navigation, because Page was a great shipbuilder, and he was also a great navigator. So our history is very rich. We have a very rich, colorful history in Cayman, and I do not understand why is it that is hidden, and we do not engage it and teach it to our young children so that they can know where they come from and where they're going. I am proud where I came from, and I know where I am and where I'm going, and that's the reason, because I know my history.
Yep, that is so important. So we have reached the top of the hour. Headline news at 9 o'clock. Just want to say to our listeners, we're still having some technical difficulties with the phone. We can hear you. You can't hear us, so we're unable to engage with you. But feel free to call in. But so just like the caller before, Mr. Tommy, we were able to listen to him and then to retort, to give feedback afterwards, because we couldn't have a back and forth conversation because he couldn't hear us. We're working on that. But meanwhile, if you have something that you want to express, feel free to call, because we, including everyone else, can hear you. Top of the hour, headline news. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
Radio Cayman, the voice, the heart, the soul of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
A request for proposals posted on government's Bonfire Hub website says that the Ministry of Sustainability and Climate Resiliency is looking for consultancy services to conduct a 12-week project. This will be to facilitate discussions around sustainability in both individual ministries and across the entire Cayman Islands government. The German government has approved the delivery of as many as 88 Leopard 1 tanks to Ukraine as President Zelensky hosts a summit for EU leaders in the capital. They will be sent to Ukraine along with the 14 newer Leopard 2 tanks that Germany pledged in January. The European Council president and the EU president are in Kyiv for the meeting. It's the first EU-Ukraine summit since the start of the Russian invasion nearly a year ago, and the first since Ukraine gained EU candidacy status. EU officials say much still needs to be done before Ukraine is ready to join the bloc, though it's thought Ukraine could be offered better access to the EU market. Announcements will also include doubling the training mission for the Ukrainian troops to 30,000 soldiers and 25 million euros to help rid liberated areas of landmines. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
For the latest in news and information,
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. Any other callers on hold, Miss Susan? None. Okay, so I want to share this, and this doesn't have to do with the Cayman Islands, but I'm using it as an example. And we had two things that was shared about Bermuda. One had to do with the teacher, first the Canadian broadcaster highlights trail blazing Bermudan teacher in Canada. But this one has to do with a gentleman by the name of Charles Roach Rattery, and it's spelled Ratteray. And this is around about 1800 to 1872, circa 1800 to 1872, a builder to bridge generations. And it talks about him winning respect and renown, working as a ship's carpenter, boat builder, and trader during the post-emancipation era. And we had them here in Cayman as well, the boat builders, and, we talk about them. So he built skiffs and schooners, which he loaded up with onions and potatoes and sailed to the Caribbean and the U.S. East Coast, becoming a wealthy property owner in the process. He was one of several men who were instrumental in bringing the British Methodist Episcopal Church, the forerunner of the African Methodist Church, to Bermuda. Radbury's name originated with him. So it originated in Bermuda with Charles Radbury, and his legacy looms large in present-day Bermuda through the contributions of his descendants. He was a carpenter. He was born in Nassau, Bahamas. He was brought to Bermuda by his mother as an infant. When his mother died, he was raised in one of the parishes in Bermuda called Somerset by two white spinsters who lavished him with love. He learned to read and write and was trained as a ship's carpenter. During the first 25 years after emancipation in 1834, shipbuilding was on the decline, but still thriving. According to historian Kenneth Robinson, Radbury was one of the scores of black Bermudans who made their living in the industry. I'm going to pause there for a second and say that shipbuilding was in decline because the slave trade, was ended at that point in time. So that's why. He says Radbury built his first vessel, a sailboat, when he was in his early teens, followed by a sloop called the Little Morning Star, which, while primarily a shipbuilder, he went to sea on his ships, packing their holds with onions, potatoes, and other fresh produce to sell in the Caribbean and the East Coast. And then it talks about onions. He became so established that he was referred to as the celebrated builder in the media. Newspaper articles and adverts attest to his prominence and prowess. In December of 1851, he took out an advertisement in the Royal Gazette offering his sloop Little Morning Star for sale. Little Morning Star had made 3 trips to the Caribbean and back, could carry 15,000 pounds of onions comfortably, and for speed she stands A1 amongst any of her classes, the advert said. He also offered liberal financing to the purchaser. It is not known whether or not he found a buyer for the ship. In 1855, Radbury and his son George built the 51-foot schooner Rose of Sharon. They launched it in May at Herman's Bay, Somerset, before a large crowd. Does that sound familiar? Launching before a large crowd. That was done in Cayman as well. And to live music played by Somerset Brass Band. Father and son were praised in a newspaper report for their industrious skills and perseverance, and for their inventive way they built it. In an article in the Royal Gazette in May of 2000, descendant Ellsworth Radbury explained that they made a jetty out of rocks that they dug from the cliff. It went from the beach to the sea. They built their ship on this temporary jetty, and when she was ready to be launched, they dug out the rocks and let her float off the tide. That was very inventive. We did it here differently in the Cayman Islands, but
we built them on the rocks and pulled them
down, yes,
down to the sea.
Yeah. Then it goes on to talk to him as a buyer, and it says Ellsworth Radbury also said his ancestors sailed the Rose of Sharon to New York in June the same year with a cargo of potatoes, onions, and tomatoes. In September 1855, Radbury put the boat up for sale. He gave a detailed description of the boat in a newspaper advertisement. It was made of white oak and cedar, sheathed with yellow metal, and every bolt in the keel quote unquote, goes through and through. Unable to find a buyer in Bermuda, he sailed the Rose of Sharon to the next year to St. Vincent, where it was purchased for $3,000. They say dollars, I guess that would be the equivalent now, or whether or not it was 3,000 pounds at the time, I'm not sure. A significant sum of money. He arrived back in Bermuda in January of 1857. It could have been dollars too, because Bermuda was influenced by the American. Rattery, who was also a dairy farmer and an undertaker, amassed an impressive amount of property during his lifetime. Sandys Parish records listed his holdings in May of 1859 for tax purposes: 3 houses and more than 26 acres of land. As a property owner, he had the right to vote. In 1858, he was one of 32 registered voters in Sandy. And then goes on to talk about his family life and, marriage and stuff like that. But here again, we have Bermuda highlighting their achievement. We do have a caller. I just want to remind the caller, you can... It's fixed now. It's fixed. Oh, great. Excellent. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
I was a test for the fix, so
excellent. Good.
I was so happy because I was on a drive and I heard what was going on. It's so interesting and it's brilliant. And I was thinking, boy, but why would we have a problem like this today? Well, I guess it's just a symbolic reminder of the fact that we don't really have a problem. We just have a problem in communication.
Mm-hmm.
And the information is all there. And Steve, you're always brilliant. I mean, it's just incredible that you've kept on that particular path. And I must always respect you for your dedication to what you believe. And it is so important that people realize that when we're talking about Black History Month, we shouldn't be really talking about a Black History Month, because Black history is so important that we should be talking about it every day.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And this is really the reason why the institutions are important, especially the educational institutions, in adapting the whole concept that when we're talking about Black history, we're not talking about a history that should be segregated to a month, but a history that should be giving credit for what we are in the world and world history. Because when we go back to the Anansi story, for instance,
mm-hmm.
go back to all of our Caribbean stories that come from Africa, through our ancestors that were enslaved, we realized, my goodness, this is the basis for European history and European philosophy. When we allow people to segregate us to the kind of corners of history, and they limit the possibility for our imaginations of our future. And I learned so much as a child, like you did, O.C., and Steve also before us, about these stories, these West African stories. That when we read the history of the Cayman Islands, we are told that when the slavery was abolished, that the Cayman Islands had per capita one of the largest original African populations. So the African retention in the Cayman Islands was much stronger than in most places.
Mm.
So we know that through our study of East End and what people call Obia or Wudun or whatever, but it's basically the basic African religious premises. And that was retained in the Cayman Islands. It was very, very strong. Roy Barton deals with this in one story, and in his books of stories, and I had to compliment Roy and say, Roy, how did you really do this? How did you pick this up as important to retain and to really put forward.
And something that was outlawed later on and made it turn into a criminal offense, the practice of such things.
Yes, and yeah, it sure is. and not only that, but also the books that were informative to you, they put them on ban lists. You couldn't read them.
Yeah.
No,
but Dr. McPhail, let me give you a story here. When we were young, I heard about Captain Thomas Diaz. I tried to find this story. The only thing I got from this story was a clipping in the Compass of Captain Tom meeting Prince Philip and Mr. Ernest Panton at Galleon Beach. That's the only thing that I could find. But I know there has to be something to the story. I started digging, and I found the story in the archives in New York, Baltimore, and in England. And I don't want to bore you about this, but Thomas Diaz was born in 1894 in Georgetown. And he was the third child of parents Ami Naphtali Diaz and Una Elizabeth Diaz. He had other siblings, and his Diaz and siblings, and he had a girl, William Diaz, born 1837, was one of his brothers, married to Waji Sims, the daughter of Daniel Sims and Elizabeth Sanders of Georgetown. You remember Martha Sanders, Georgetown. And he had so he had all those children. Thomas Diaz married Olive Borden. She was born 1839 at Georgetown, Grand Cayman. And Thomas Diaz and Olive had two children. Casson Lee Diaz, who died in Wales, left all his papers and stuff. I have copies of those. And Ireland Zephyrin Diaz, born 1924. That's Roy Ding Ding's mother.
Okay.
At Georgetown. Now, Thomas Diaz's family was not wealthy. However, young Thomas was fortunate to obtain a good education under the tutelage of C.H.L. Gore. Remember that expert that we had?
Yes.
The educator in those days, Thomas Diaz, he chose a marine career. He was gifted and brilliant with the instruments of navigation. His skill with the sextant and the compass traveled wide within the maritime circle, and he became known as a navigator and was elevated to the position of a master mariner. And Captain Tom Diaz's credentials were respected at sea and on the land. He commanded schooners, motor vessels, and was affectionately known as Captain Tom by his crew and employer. Now, this is the story's start. In 1938, Captain Tom was recommended by the Jamaica Board of Trade to command the English yacht, the Lost Horizon, back to England, that was owned by Lord Mountbatten and his lieutenant Harold P.J. Phillip. They had come to Jamaica to play in the international polo tournament, and they got bad news of some family member were ill or dying in Lord Batten's family, and Lord Batten and his wife Lady Edwina and all of the other passengers on board the ship decided to take the steamer back to England quickly, and they were supposed to berth the Lost Horizon in Jamaica. But at the last minute, Lieutenant Phillips decided to take the ship back to England, but he needed a crew. So, he needed a crew. The harbor master in Jamaica, on the Board of Trade, which is the forerunner for the Jamaica Port Authority, recommended Captain Tom Diaz to Lieutenant Colonel Phillips as the master for the voyage. And listen to this now, very carefully. Captain Thomas Diaz took the job as master of the Lost Horizon. He chose a Caymanian crew. Captain Thomas Diaz chose Lemuel Richard McPhail as his boatswain mate, Lee Godfrey, William Rivers, R.F. Ebanks as deck sailors, and Mr. Mendes as cook. And they sailed the Lost Horizon up to England, and where they met the Queen, the royal family, Lord Martin, but unfortunately, there were only two people, English people, on the board of the boat. That was Lieutenant Phillips and the chief engineer. They lost horizon.
Doc, I'm going to pause you there for a second. We're going to ask the caller to hold on. We have to take a quick commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
J and Money touching down again. Now you can send your US dollars at any location on island, including the BRAC. It's easy. Just walk with your US dollars. No need to convert to CI. This is another convenient service available at J and Money. They always find a way to make it easier and hassle-free. So remember, when you need to send your money and you only have US dollars, don't ever think of what to do. Just head straight to any J&M Money location and send your money the fast, convenient, and affordable J&M Money. J&M Money, touching down again. J&M Money, runga to la friend.
Tune in Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. for the Daily Sports Report, covering local, regional, and international sports. Proudly brought to you by Dr. Wayne Porter, offering a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. Call 946-9020 to book your appointment today.
Good morning, everyone. Hello? Hello? Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Okay, I see we have just about everyone, and of course Tom drops off, as per usual. Let's just wait a minute here. He always comes right back, and we're almost ready, and... oh, whoever's dog that is, please go on mute. Why won't it let me share my screen? Okay, looks like we're ready to start.
We're like a video conference with no technical issues. CG Britk. Good like that.
Radio Cayman News.
Small tremor off the coast of Cayman Brac. 4.4 magnitude earthquake, approximately 75 miles east
The 45-year-old Canadian man arrested with weapons at Owen Roberts International Airport appeared in court today.
As a young Caymanian, it gives me great pride to know that I'll be contributing to policies.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
For the record with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. We still have Dr. Frank McFeel on the line. And Dr. Frank?
Yes.
Are you still there? Okay.
I just want to finish this for you.
Okay. Thanks.
So, the Lost Horizon was the most expensive and the best equipped yacht for its time. The fittings and the elegant structure on the vessel were the most modern. Now they went to Bermuda. They stayed in Bermuda for 2 weeks, where they got their uniforms, and they sail away. Now between Bermuda and the Azores, the Lost Horizon encountered some 5 storms. One such thunderstorm was like a hurricane. Fairs, squalls changed the wind flow. Massive swells and thick, heavy walls of cumulus clouds made it almost impossible to keep the Lost Horizon on course. The wind and the large waves came from all directions. The North Atlantic weather was gruesome, and the crew of the Lost Horizon fought the threatening storm system for hours to keep the fierce-breaking waves from capsizing the yacht. But Captain Tom's sailing skills and calm demeanor under pressure kept the Lost Horizon on chart. Meanwhile, his boatswain mate, Lemuel McFeel, at the helm, kept her on course until the storm passed and the weather became fair. It was that kind of brave, competent demonstration of sailing skills and seafarership by the Caymanians that Lieutenant Philip wrote back to Major Neville in Jamaica about their seamanship. Then 10 days out of the Azores, about 250 miles off the English Channel, in the Bay of Biscay, the Lost Horizon caught fire around 2 o'clock on Sunday morning, the 8th of May 1938. And the fire started that morning shortly after the English engineer left the engine room. It was not discovered how the engine room fire started, but the fire spread rapidly, encasing the whole ship. Now, when SOS was sent out, they were rescued, taken to Southampton. Lord Mountbatten came down on train, met them, took them up to London. They stayed in the officers' house in England, and they were invited to Buckingham Palace to meet the royal family where they had tea. The records show that Captain Tom Diaz and our grandfather, Lemuel Richard McField, returned to New York first class on the ship. And from New York, they came to Kingston, Jamaica, and then they returned to Cayman on the Simboco. Nothing about that is in our archives. Not one line about that in our archives. I had to dig that story out from going abroad to get that story out from other archives. The Jamaica Gleaner has it. The New York Times has it. The Baltimore Sun and the London newspapers all reported this incident and about the lost horizon. And that is why in 1962, Captain Tom when Prince Philip came to Cayman, he had a dinner at Galleon Beach. At Galleon Beach, and there's a picture that I have. I will give you. With Captain Tom Nelson Diaz conversing with Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, and Ernest Panon at the Galleon Beach Hotel.
Okay.
That story is not reported anywhere in Cayman, and that is the kind of thing that we suffer every day. There's nothing about what we did, about us, about our people, and that is why I am proud to be a McField and proud to be from the African diaspora, because of the contributions of our people to this endeavor.
Excellent.
And that's the reason why I say across the generations, countless of black Caymanians have demonstrated profound moral courage and resilience.
Okay, we have a few callers lined up, so I want to give Dr. McField an opportunity for some final comments before we grab the other callers. Doc?
I'd just like to say, I mean, that story outlines my submission. And I would like people to understand that we are aware of our history, and that's why we seem to be such a problem. We respect our history, because our history was demonstrated also on the battlefield in Verdun in France. As we went there with the British Army, our family have been loyal supporters of the Crown. When other people were too coward to go where we went, my brother George was with the 101st Airborne Division.
That's right.
During the Vietnam War. Our family have been military for all generations. That is why when we remember our grandfather, Lemuel McField, we do not threaten people. We only protect our heritage and our identity, and more people need to be doing that. It's not to insult anybody about theirs, but for us to retain ours.
Okay.
So that's why my son, Joshua Verdun McField, George Verdun McField, we have kept the memory of the sacrifices that our family made, because that is truly to honor one's heritage, sacrifice. Thank you.
Doc, thank you very much for that as well. Let's grab the next caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Good morning, caller. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, trying to get on. I couldn't get on. Voice not the point. After I heard you guys was back on, I called back.
Excellent.
Good morning to the doctor.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah. I was listening, but you did went in the direction that I wanted you to go, because I was hearing a lot of dialogue concerning West Bay and Georgetown, and there wasn't anything being said concerning East End, knowing that I'm not saying that a lot of your knowledge never came from your family, but I know you two got a lot of knowledge from being up in East End.
That's right.
With people like Wardell Conley, who was one of the first black person.
Wardell Rankin.
Wardell Rankin, who was one of the first black person. He was a mate to sail with Captain Watson into South Africa.
That's right.
And then I want to touch on the Conley, who have a deep history
building ships and being master mariners, coming as far as 1796. John Jarrett Conley, who had a bunch of sons, Erskine, Austin, Captain Arnold, who was three mast, our master of three mast schooners. We had Burns Conley, who was a navigator, who got drowned, and then we have
Smiley Conley.
We have Smiley, who was a master mariner. We had Matthew Conley, who was the great grandfather of Truman Conley, who Truman is still living today, who have a Purple Heart for going to the war.
Yes.
And then there's a story about Matthew Conley, who went to West Bay, father sent to West Bay in the early time to do navigational studies, and he was dismissed. The father took a day and a half to ride back to West Bay on the horse, and the gentleman said Matthew was interrupting the class because he knew more than him himself. So that's the deep history that we have in East End, and then we, as you know, we got the Conde and the Watlers, who was shipbuilders.
That's right.
Who built some very very famous ships, and that was not just for East End but throughout the island.
I spoke about Conrad Watler, who built the Goldfield, the gold medal, and the Klondike.
I don't know if you know the story about Captain Arnold, who sailed a three-mast schooner into the reef in East End.
Into lowering the bay.
Lumber. It was loaded with lumber, and he willfully crashed the schooner into the he pretended to be coming into the Easter Channel and crashed it, so all East End people could have
lumber
to build houses and say the thatch houses.
Right. I think you might have a little bit about that.
Yes, I know that. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. You could walk straight to the reef on lumber.
That's right.
So we do in East End have a deep history of, and the only how I know this is because listening to Mr. Warren and people like that who I had the opportunity to grow up with in East End, and I hear you make mention about your family, but I too come off this Conley list. My great grandfather was the son of Jean Anna Conley, who was the daughter of Dighton, and she was born in 1840. So I too have a deep history, and I don't sailor because I get seasick real quick, but I do have the blood.
Yes.
So I know you too, and it's sad, Doc, like you say, that we don't have this history written. Don't know how I know this, because talking to you a lot and keep reminiscing in your office about it, so I keep being reminded of the history, but there's nowhere. I don't know if too many people read the book, The Captain Sailor. That was a captain up in East End who married a white woman and brought her to East End.
Yes, that was Smiley.
100. Yes. So and then if you look in the I've found it upon the seas. You're talking about black people. We have in there a full page photo.
Yes, I showed it on the radio. I hope you could see it.
Yep.
Dressed very elegantly, and she was known as a sophisticated black woman, and so we need to. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we just keep throwing out these song bites about we not having the history recorded. But we need to, the government or somebody need to commission somebody like you and Dr. Frank and OC and others that are interested to try and write the history. If not, if you guys go on, then who gonna be talking about this on the radio? Who has have the audacity to come on the radio and talk about their ancestors being black and things like Dr. McNeil say, they want to deny that part.
Yes.
So we got to stop talking about this and do something about it.
Yes.
Let's do something about it.
Yes. Yep.
Dr. McNeil is 88,
Yep.
Yes.
88.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get something done. We have to get the government to commission all those concession that they're giving to others. Let's give us some concession.
Caller, I wouldn't even go there. I wouldn't even go there. It will have to be done by private people and people who are dedicated and people who have funds that could do it. I wouldn't even go there.
Caller,
because they're not really interested.
Yep.
If they can subsidize everything else, they can subsidize that.
So true. Okay, Lord Graham, thank you very much for that. We have gone past our commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
West Bay, home to Barkas National Park, the touristy flair, a family community, a political powerhouse. From sports enthusiasts to car aficionados, affection for silver thatch rope. No matter how far you may venture, West Bay will always be where the heart is. Home will always be in West Bay. West Bay Pharmacy, caring for your home and your family. West Bay Pharmacy in Centennial Towers. Convenient, quality care is just around the corner.
Grand Cayman's biggest one-day family fun day is back. The 54th Annual Agricultural Show at the Stacey Watler Agricultural Pavilion in Lower Valley. Ash Wednesday, February 22nd. Raffle tickets are on sale now. And for only $25, you can win $20,000 and so many other prizes. Raffle tickets include general admission to the show. For more information, visit them on Facebook or CaymanAgriculture.com.
Grand Cayman, the concert you've been waiting for is almost here.
Yeah, man, this is Graham Smart. And
the hottest pre-Valentine's ticket in town, Cayman Airways. The Ministry of Tourism, Palmyra Development, and Tortuga presents three-time Grammy Award winner, Gramps Morgan. Gramps Morgan.
What I'm feeling.
Gramps Morgan.
If you give a little more than you take.
Gramps Morgan from the legendary band Morgan Heritage in a special up-close acoustic event. Also featuring James Geary, Terry Williams, D. Doctor, and more. 8 p.m. February 11th at the Mango Tree. This is an outdoor event under the stars. Tickets are $45 pre-sold. VIP tables available. Get online at CaymanEvents.co or at Mango Tree. Part of the proceeds to Meals on Wheels. Gramps Morgan in concert. Brought to you by Cayman Airways, the Ministry of Tourism, Tortugas Coca-Cola, Palmyra Development, the Mango Tree, Radio Cayman, CaymanEvents.co, and Loud Production. Gramps Morgan.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Steve McPhail. One of our listeners has written and said, such a great show this morning. So happy to hear Dr. Steve recount the story of Captain Ton Diaz. The person says, can you say if his home still stands? Interested to know from the point of view of the National Trust and their efforts to document the homes of historic significance on the Heritage Register.
The home stands, but I think the home now is a tenement house.
Been converted,
but,
yeah.
But
then the store on the corner that was on the corner that he had as well.
Yes. But if they didn't restore the great Dr. Roy McTaggart's house and all of those houses, well, you think they are going to put any value to Tom Diaz's house? Let's face it now.
Well, I know that Dave and Miss Lynn, that they always listen to the show. Haven't heard from them in quite a while. Of course, I used to see them more when we played dominoes down in Rock Hole, but since that was interrupted by the progress that we're making in the Cayman Islands. So we ended up building a road going from Eastern Avenue over to South Church Street, and we were interrupted there. I don't see as much of them, but if they're listening, would be great to have one of them call in and talk about Captain Tom's house and what changes, if any, have been made to it. Also, what I want to do, I'm going to use this opportunity. There is a group, a WhatsApp group that is called 3C hashtag Caring Cayman and Culture. And one person a few weeks ago was inquiring about the Merco. They were talking about various ships, and the person was inquiring about the Merco and when she sank. And for those of you who don't know, it was spelled MERCO, Maryland Company. Yeah. So in the Tradewinds newspaper of Thursday, I'm going to find the date here for you. Thursday, the 3rd of February, 1966. That's the Tradewinds newspaper, Thursday, the 3rd of February, 1966. There's an article in there also about the, I remember the Majestic that was...
that went down in 1941.
Yeah, that was written by Mrs. Ernest Rivers. That's an article in there. But there's also an article, Sinking of the Merco, and it says here, about is an exceptional series of action pictures of the sinking of the MV Merco on the 26th of November 1965. So if anyone is listening, those of you who are on that group, 3C hashtag Caring Caymanian Culture. The Merco sank on November the 26th, 1965. And then it says at the top is the Merco just after the crew abandoned ship and she was beginning to settle in the water. The next 4 pictures show her as she sinks deeper, and the final pictures after she has disappeared, leaving only floating on the waves where she went under. And I believe that these pictures were taken by Mr. Robert Bawden. I'm going to find, because I believe that he was the one, Robert Bawden. He was on crew on one of those vessels, and he was the person who took the pictures as well. We do have a caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
How are you today?
Good to hear your voice.
Yes, this is Lynn.
Yes, ma'am. I recognize it.
Yeah. I went down in Rockhold and lived with Miss Olive, my wife. I was a caretaker for her for many years.
Okay.
And she told me a lot about Cayman and what happened in the past. I couldn't record it. I didn't have a recorder, but I have it recorded in my memory of know what's going on here. I didn't meet Camp Tom, for he was already dead, but Miss Dias told me everything, and I have it in my memory going on same way. She tell me in the past what happened here. In Grand Cayman, people do not sit down and realize what Caymanian has been through to bring this island together, that we have a beautiful home here and live here in peace, unity, and in harmony. We have something where everybody wants to get a piece of it, but it belongs to Caymanian and Caymanian only. And all I have to say, love is what Caymanian have to offer to anyone that walk these shores. And Caymanian live an elegant life, beautiful, wonderful life. And anybody that come here have respect, manners and behavior to these people that live here. And share the love that they give to you. Here. When I say share the love that Caymanian give to you. And you have in your hand, hold it up, and kiss it up every day to have a beautiful island like this and the good things that the old ahead have left behind for us all.
Miss Lynn, can you tell us the condition of the house? Has any alterations been made to the house and the store that Captain Tom had there?
Yes, we remodeled it. It was old and mashed up, and we remodeled it and put it back together. Let it look like a little avenue down here.
Okay. Was it originally all built from wood?
The original house was built from limestone.
Okay.
Limestone is built from, but we'll keep it up good until we remodel it. The part of it is still here, so we'll remodel it from cement block. And make it more unique.
Excellent.
Yes. It's a very nice, comfortable house to anybody to live in.
Okay, Miss Lynn, thank you very much for that. Give Dave my regard as well. Good to hear your voice. We're going to take our last commercial break, folks. We do have one caller on hold. We will take that caller as soon as we return. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
JN Money touchdown. Send the money now. Reach wow. You say you need some money, JN Money, I can send it in a hurry. Get through quick when you come collect your cash, or use your money card and swipe it in a flash. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah. Send and receive funds at any JN Money location. It's fast, affordable, and convenient. Money touchdown with JN Money. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah.
Call 345-945-2014 for details. Available at JN Money locations across the Cayman Islands.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay.
No one can stop me when I taste the feel.
Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
Cayman Arts Festival 2023. From New York to London, landing in Cayman. 8 landmark events. Global music on the island's stage. On Saturday, February 4th, 7 p.m. at the Westin Hotel Ballroom, the Cabaret Concert with John Webber, Natalie Douglas, Gabrielle Stravelli, and Pat O'Leary. Tickets are available at www.caymanartsfestival.com. For more information, call 922-5550 or email inquiries@caymanartsfestival.com. The Cabaret Concert, Saturday, February 4th, 7 p.m. at the Westin Hotel Ballroom.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're on the last leg of the show this morning. We do have a caller on hold. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Yes, good morning, Lucy.
Hey, good morning. How art thou?
Not too bad, and good morning to Dr. Markfield.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Markfield, you mentioned about the slave trade. The slave trade originated in Africa when the most powerful tribes were capturing the weaker tribes. And when the white man came there, that tribe sold black people to them. And they brought them to the West Indies in the Americas. And that's how the slave trade really, really started. Because if another tribe couldn't capture another tribe and sell it to the white man, it wouldn't have been no slave trade. You understand?
Well,
you have to dig back deep into this whole slave trade thing. It wasn't just the white man went and captured a tribe and bring to the West Indies or...
Caller, if I could interrupt you there for a second, though. It was customary in Africa when, just like other countries, other societies, when you went to war and you conquered the other side, you dominated them and you put them into slavery.
That's right.
So that is one aspect of it, and you're absolutely right about that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was not that practice that was in Africa that started the Atlantic slave trade. The Atlantic slave trade was started because of the industrialization to a certain extent and the need for workers.
The need for workers in Jamaica, in Barbados, in Brazil, and all of those places to grow sugar and to grow crops and to slave in the mines and stuff.
Yeah.
So it didn't start in Jap. And I don't know where you got that history from. I would like to get the references from you of where you got that from.
You're the one saying you're a historian, you know. You have to go back and see.
Well, I never read that. I never read that book that you're making your facts from.
Do some more research, and you will find it, my friend.
We do acknowledge that took place, but that was not
the reason for the slave trade.
And you know what? Okay, go ahead, caller, talk, because we're going to share that article with you about the that I shared with you about the church
about the Church of
England and their involvement in it. Go ahead, caller, talk. Continue to talk. Go ahead.
Most of the slaves came from West Africa. Ghana was one of them. And the white man couldn't just go there and capture slaves and bring to the Western Hemisphere. They were sold by the same black people. They captured them. So study the history. And when you say that historian, go back into the history book. Go deep. This whole thing started with the black man selling the black man to the white man.
Can you give me the reference of that book that you got that those facts from?
Listen, man. Listen. You want me to educate you, or you want to educate?
No, I'm just asking you for the reference. I can give you the references of where I get my facts from. I asked you to reference of where you got your facts from.
The English archives.
English archives, he said.
The English archives. Well, just let us share with you what comes out of not with the English archives, but what comes out of the church archives.
That's where the church will have to get it from.
No, we're just going to share an article with you that was just published a few days ago.
Yes. Okay, caller. So thank you very much for that, and we want you to listen. To this article, and this is, you can listen on the radio rather than having to hang in there if you want to. So here we go. This is an article in the Jamaica Gleaner, and they would have gotten it from elsewhere. Church of England sheds light on shameful slave trade ties. 3 centuries ago, an enslaved person in Virginia wrote to a leader of the Church of England begging to be released from, quote unquote, this cruel bondage. There was no reply from the church, which at the time was accumulating a tidy profit from the transatlantic slave trade. Now, I'm going to pause there for a second. The Europeans didn't go to Africa to get slaves because they knew that Africans were conquering each other and selling them. Whether or not they were doing that, they went there for slaves. They were going to get their slaves anyway, right? Says the handwritten letter from 1723, whose author says they must remain anonymous for fear they will, quote unquote, swing upon the gallows tree if exposed, has gone on display in London as part of the efforts by the Anglican Church to reckon with its historic complicity in slavery. It is a very poignant document and also extraordinarily rare. Giles Mandelbrot, archivist at the church's Lambeth Palace Library, said, the letter is included in an exhibition at the library exploring the church's role in the 18th century slave trade. It coincides with a new report setting out the role in hard facts and figures. The church commissioners, the body that administers the church's £10 billion, the equivalent of US $12.3 billion investment fund, hired forensic accountants in 2019 to dig through the church's archives for evidence of slave trade links. They spent 2 years poring over centuries-old ledgers, and what they found is quote-unquote shaming, the church said. The investment fund has its roots in Queen Anne's bounty, established in 1704 to help support impoverished clergy. It invested heavily in the South Sea Company, which held a monopoly on transporting enslaved people from Africa to Spanish-controlled ports in the Americas. Between 1714 and 1739, the company transported 34,000 people on at least 96 voyages. The commissioner's report says the church at the time knew what it was involved in. Investors in the South Sea Company would have known that it was trading in enslaved people, it said. The fund also received donations from individuals enriched by the slave trade, including Edward Colson, a British slave trader whose statue in his home city of Bristol was toppled by anti-racism protesters in 2020. Those ledgers recorded the profits of human bondage are now on display alongside documents showing how views of slavery within the church range from justification to opposition. Some Anglicans wanted to convert slaves to Christianity, while others saw that as a slippery slope that could lead to demands for freedom. The exhibition contains a version of the Bible intended for slavery, with all references to freedom from bondage removed. That meant cutting 90% of the Old Testament and half of the New Testament. And again, just to remind the caller that in the Bible days, slavery was there as well. So don't blame the slave trade
on Africans.
Only on Africans.
It was a triangular trade where they made goods in England. They took them down to Africa. They sold them. They exchanged them. They got slaves for them, and they took them to various parts of the world: Brazil, America, Caribbean, all over. And to the caller, since they were the superior people and they know better, if it is true that the African offered them slaves, why would they have bought them then? Since they were the enlightened people, why would they have bought them? It was perpetrated by the Europeans who needed manpower to build their cities, to build their empires, and so that's what they did. And it was a wicked act. And the Jewish people have something said never again.
Never again, yes.
Never again. They spend all kinds of money remembering what happened to them in Europe, and they had a new country given to them called Israel, and they said never again. And soon as we
they're still pursuing those persons who committed atrocities against them, right?
One 90-odd-year-old person was just convicted in England for that. And soon as we open our mouth, we are told that, it was our fault, that we did it on ourselves, and so forth. And when I ask them, show me the records, show me the the authorship. Show me the scholarship about that. People say it's in the archives. I must go and find it. I've never seen that in the archives anywhere.
Okay, so Doc, this has been a very interesting conversation.
It's a very
this
emotive
morning.
one for
Yes,
some people.
Yeah, and one of our listeners has written and said, we just wanted to commend you both for continuing with the very broad and extremely important subject. And I must say that some people feel uncomfortable not wanting to talk about it. And I'm going to say this, the same way that the slave trade, including being deeply rooted in racism, as well as the need for workers, so is the modern slave trade. And there are some people who refer to the Cayman Islands and what we put through, what employers put work permit holders through here as well. The conditions under which they have to live, the conditions under which they have to work as a sort of modern day slavery that is coming about as a result of the need that we have here in the Cayman Islands today for tourism, for financial services and everything else. We shouldn't forget that, because we're going to be judged centuries later on by what we are based on what we're doing today as well.
Because what we are doing is creating a pyramid where the apex, the top of the apex, the 2% of the apex is going to be wealthy, and the bottom, the base is going to be nothing but poor people. What they have done, paying people $4.50 an hour and giving them gratuities to make up salaries, is terrible. It's a piece of modern slavery, and $6 an hour in this day and age, where people cannot afford to live and where people are falling by the wayside every day. We are seeing the results of it already. And I can tell anybody who listening to me this morning and listen to us this morning that we are going to pay the price for this soon or later. It's coming home. And as one black leader said many, many years ago, when an incident happened in America, and the chickens are going to come home to roost. The chickens are come home to roost, and the chickens are going to come home to roost here, because this is wrong what we're doing. And all we're doing is building and creating a society for a group of people who really don't care about the other side of people, and they are the ones who are going to suffer, because when the onslaught is let out, when people are hungry, and as Haig Borden said, politics is through the stomach, and when people are hungry and have nothing to eat and have no shelter, they are going to take it from those people who have many and who have shelter. And we need to be proactive instead of reactive, because that's all we do in Cayman. We react when something happens.
Okay, we're going a little bit over time. I'm going to read this very quickly, and then I won't have much in terms of closing comments. Great topic this morning, gentlemen. It says, it saddens my heart when I have noticed that this is one of the topics most Caymanians choose to avoid. As one of the callers previously mentioned, it is good to have a discussion, as it is through these matters, matters can be solved. My dearest people, know your history, know who you are, love yourselves. Don't let anyone dictate to you who you are and where you come from. Be proud of who you are. You are blessed, and this is a blessed country. Being one who experienced marginalization in my country because of my race, it hurts to the core. However, we as a race have lifted our heads up high, be the best we can after years of struggle and ostracization, and now within my race are found the best of educators, doctors, lawyers, you name it. God is good. Now, know yourselves and be proud of who you are. And I want to thank that writer for that as well. Folks, I want to thank you. It's been an interesting conversation. We need to have more, as well. Remember, We are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. So I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. John Sterling, Dwayne Banks at 12:15 for Talk today. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
For the record, proudly brought to you by
Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Brand Source Home Gallery. Inspiring luxury. West Bay Pharmacy. Taking care of your health. And JN Money. From abroad to yard. Fast, affordable, convenient. Doctor's Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctor's Hospital. Always there for you. Call 949-6066.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman